Laker Nation, welcome into the Lakers Report by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Senior. Hope all of you had an awesome weekend. On this fine Monday, we have a loaded show coming your way. Some reports out there about the Lakers' interest in Terry Rozier if they were to trade Russell Westbrook to the Charlotte Hornets. Lamar Odom, in a shocker, in a weird interview, said that he wants Phil Jackson in his late 70s to take over for Frank Vogel. I have some thoughts on that. Speaking of the head coaching latest, we'll basically unpack all of the latest news and rumors around Frank Vogel's departure and who could take over as the head coach for the Los Angeles Lakers. But also, I'm going to test all of you. Those of you who are able to identify how many times I say future in today's show, I'm going to give you a shout out on our next Lakers report, and I want you to correctly identify how many times I say the word future, because as part of Laker Nation, we're not looking at this past year. We're looking ahead into the future. We're going to wash the 2021-2022 season down the drain because it was a disaster. It was catastrophic. It was an awful watch. So we're going to flush that. We're going to take a glass half full approach. We're going to look into the future. Let me know how many times I said future. We start off with Russell Westbrook. So Marc Stein reporting recently that the Lakers obviously want to trade him. Last week on the show, we talked about a trade for Russ to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for Gordon Hayward. But instead of Gordon Hayward, could Los Angeles have their eyes set on another player, a guard with the Charlotte Hornets, and a guy who I'm pretty intrigued by from a financial perspective and what he could bring to the floor and some value back for Russ, because I'm not sure how much you can get back for a player who's declining, who's older, and has a base salary of around $47 million. So could the Lakers have their eyes set on a different player in Charlotte, not Gordon Hayward, and could it be Terry Rozier? For me, Hayward has never made a lot of sense. Obviously, from a salary cap perspective and from a salary mattress standpoint, in the NBA, there's a cap. And when you trade a player, you have to find a way to mix and match salaries. So Russ and Gordon Hayward have salaries that are in a similar neighborhood. But for what Los Angeles wants, they don't want an older player who's coming off a bunch of injury-plagued seasons, whose play has declined just a bit. Now, Gordon Hayward has put up pretty solid numbers throughout his NFL career, or NBA career, and with the Charlotte Hornets, especially over the last couple of years. And this past year as well, he shot the basketball well. But the Lakers need players who are available. The Lakers need some youth. They need some athleticism. And while they do need some offensive output, which is what Hayward could bring to the floor in the purple and gold, they don't want an older player who's injured and is also very expensive. They've been dealing with a lot of injury issues with LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and it really just does prohibit you from really maximizing your resources on this team. So what team will Russ play with to start next year? Will it be the Charlotte Hornets? Will it be another one of the 29 organizations in the NBA? Predict it for me in the comment section. As for that Marc Stein report on Russell Westbrook, he said this over the weekend: "Yet it has been since conveyed to me that the Lakers have more boundaries than advertised when it comes to weighing Westbrook trades. One league source said that injury histories would be a prime consideration in any deal, given how many injuries have so routinely intruded upon the last two seasons for both the 37-year-old LeBron James and 29-year-old Anthony Davis." Marc Stein must be listening to me on the Lakers Report, because that's what I just said. Translation: the Lakers are unlikely to consent to a Charlotte trade headlined by Gordon Hayward, not after Hayward's first two seasons in Charlotte have likewise been injury-filled. The Lakers surely understand that they need to factor in durability if they are taking on long-term money, which suggests that Terry Rozier would have to be the Southern California-bound headliner if the Hornets and Lakers eventually progress to serious trade talks. Now, I talked earlier about me liking the game for Terry Rozier. I think he'd bring some offensive explosiveness and offensive pop to this roster last year, which got stagnant on the offensive end, and I think he's a much more efficient offensive player as compared to Russ. Points per game last year, checking in at around 19, so the offensive scoring output is certainly there. He's certainly spotty as a passer, but as a hyper-volume scorer who, when he's hot, can be really fun to watch. 44% shooting from the floor and about 38% with volume from beyond the arc. For a long time now, with Charlotte and with the Boston Celtics, Rozier has been a very good offensive player. And again, you have to find a way to make the dollar figures work, and Rozier, to a certain degree, would be able to do that in a Russell Westbrook trade. Has that pop offensively. He can play on ball. He can play off ball, which is good for LeBron James, because at points you want LeBron off ball to be able to really save him in terms of his body at 37 years old. But at times, LeBron wants to run point, and the Lakers are a better team when LeBron James has the ball in his hands. And if you want Rozier on the floor with LeBron James, when LeBron is playing on ball, then Terry Rozier can play off ball. And I don't think Russ, a lot this past year and throughout his NBA career, has been comfortable with playing that two-guard spot in order to find a rhythm, in order to find his way offensively. Sometimes he needs the ball in his hands, and it does affect the Lakers offensively. So that's the latest on Terry Rozier and a potential rush trade to the Charlotte Hornets. Coming up just around the corner on today's show, we're going to get to the latest, on the head coaching vacancy and head coaching search for Los Angeles, and we're going to take a look at the future for Los Angeles. But this is why you subscribe to the channel. When Frank Vogel got fired, we were one of the first channels on YouTube to let you know. When there's a Lakers rumor or news item out there in the NBA news and rumors universe, we convey all of the latest information. Lakers head coaching hot board. We went through our top 10 candidates to replace Frank Vogel. So in addition to the latest news, rumors, we do hot boards. There was a report about the Lakers' potential interest in a Gordon Hayward trade on Thursday. We were able to push out a video as soon as that news was made official. So subscribe to the channel, plus all of our coverage here on the Lakers Report by Chat Sports is 100% free. We've been churning out videos multiple times per week. Me as the host, producer Sam Brown, killing the game as well. So either hit that red subscribe button down below or plug in that link at the bottom of your screen. It's youtube.com/LakersTV. Okay, let's get to the much anticipated Lamar Odom quote on Phil Jackson. Lakers reunion with the Zen Master. Could it happen? A former Laker in Odom saying, I'm down for Phil Jackson to be the next head coach in exchange for Frank Vogel. My goodness, what is going on? Cue up that Stephen A. quote from many years ago, the real ones. No. Lamar Odom on the next Lakers head coach. Phil Jackson, I know, can coach LeBron with the triangle offense. I think that would keep him around a little bit longer, preserve him a little bit longer. I would love for Phil Jackson to be the coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. If he was to come back and coach for LA, I think the Lakers would be the pick, and I think the Lakers would be the fan favorite. Now, Lamar, I understand that you played some good ball under Phil Jackson, but do you realize that at this point in 2022, with 420 right around the corner, that Phil Jackson is 76 years old? Let me repeat this to Lamar Odom, as well as all of Laker Nation. Phil Jackson is 76 years old. The last time that he had a legitimate job title in the NBA, he completely mailed it in with the New York Knicks and wasn't even at the Garden or the facility to help basketball operations be run with the New York Knicks. He had accomplished everything. I read his book, 11 Rings. It was awesome. His appearances in the Michael Jordan Last Dance documentary was fantastic. Phil Jackson, the Zen Master, goes down as arguably the best coach in the history of the NBA. But my man hasn't been a head coach for a long time. He didn't put in effort with the New York Knicks. He completely mailed it in and declined to even live and work in New York. He wanted to work remotely before Zoom was even a thing, which meant that working remotely wasn't even a thing. Lamar Odom, what are you talking about, wanting Phil Jackson at 76 to go through the rigors of being a head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers at this point when you're trying to rebound off one of the most embarrassing seasons ever? Lamar, what are you thinking? I don't know, but Laker Nation, what are you thinking? Maybe you disagree with all of the sentiments that I just made. Do you have any interest in a Phil Jackson reunion? Type Y for yes, type N for no, let me know, and I can only imagine that comment section is going to get popping. Now, the Lakers Report is also available on Rumble because we here at Chat Sports continue to grow to all of the platforms that you as the viewers use. And right now, Lakers Report content on the Rumble app doing pretty damn good. What's also cool about the Rumble app, you can close out the app and still listen to my golden pipes. But right now, we're in a competition with NBA Now as well as Warriors Today. I need all of you to subscribe to the Lakers Report for more exclusive Lakers news and rumors content because we got to catch up to Warriors Today as well as NBA Now by Chat Sports. So give us a follow and hit that green subscribe button. It is that color of the L3. Rumble.com/LakersTV. Subscribe for more Lakers content. Next up on today's show, let's get to the latest on the head coaching search. Los Angeles Times released a report on potential candidates, including several new names, in addition to some of the names that we've talked about and some of the names on my Lakers head coaching hot board, which we broke down last week. Make sure you check that video out. Okay, LA Times on who could replace Frank Vogel. Here you go. This is the latest. Those in the league with knowledge of the situation expect Toronto's Nick Nurse, Philadelphia's Doc Rivers, and Utah's Quinn Snyder to be candidates should they become available. Former Portland coach Terry Stotts, former Oklahoma City and Wizards coach Scott Brooks, former Lakers coach Mike Brown, and Utah assistant Alex Jensen also might be considered. Same for Juwan Howard, who interviewed back in 2019, although sources told the LA Times that his intention is to continue coaching Michigan, where two of his sons play. Now, I think when you look at the Lakers head coaching search, this vacancy right now with what the Lakers need and all of the roster overhaul and all of the movement that we're going to see with this basketball team, that the Lakers need to make a splash at that head coaching spot. Mike Brown, for me, is not a splash hire, and it doesn't move the needle whatsoever. And the same can be said for a guy like Terry Stotts. Now, we talked last week about LeBron James being interested in Mark Jackson, hasn't coached for a little while, but maybe it could be a similar situation to Jason Kidd, where he failed as a head coach, or at least got fired, and then was able to take a step back for a little while to reevaluate his maybe misdoings, his shortcomings, why it didn't work. In Mark Jackson's case with the Golden State Warriors, he got to go to the sideline, be an NBA analyst, and reevaluate how the game is played and maybe reintroduce some of the things that are now popular that he didn't do with the Warriors. Now, as far as Brooks' resume, let's focus in on him because he was a longtime NBA head coach, most recently with the Washington Wizards. He's been accomplished in the NBA as a head man, and we haven't talked about him here on the Lakers Report yet. Assistant with Portland this season. He coached the Oklahoma City Thunder from 2008 to 2015, won a lot of games with Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, and James Harden for a little while, won 62% of his games. NBA Finals appearance in the 2011-2012 season. He was with the Wizards from 2016 to 2021. Overall record sub 500, so not the same success with OKC, but not the same star power either. And he's been an NBA head coach for nearly 20 years. So the experience has been there for a long time for Scott Brooks, and he's had some solid moments. Now, again, it goes back to that original point that I made. Like, this doesn't really move the needle for me. You know what would move the needle in a city like Los Angeles where there's star power in Hollywood? You go after an A-list actor like a Leonardo DiCaprio, like some of the other A-listers out there, like a Tom Hanks, like a Denzel Washington. That's why I'm trying to go after a Nick Nurse. That's why I'm trying to go after a Doc Rivers if he gets fired. I'm not going after a failed head coach and a Scott Brooks or a Mike Brown. I understand that the experience factor is good, but I like them more so as an assistant as compared to a head coach. Okay, so I said this earlier on. How many times did I say future? The first 5 to get it right, we're going to give you shout-outs on Tuesday's show. You have to correctly identify how many times I've said the word future from start to finish, even when I reintroduced this earlier on. Let me know in the comments section. Appreciate all of you for watching. Future, he has some bangers. Are you going to come through with the banger in the comment section and correctly announce how many times I said it?